A very good morning, everyone. I am Avinash. Today we are going to talk about IPO. So, what is an IPO? IPO is an initial public offering which comes under the primary market segment. Whenever a company wants to raise funds from the public, it executes a process known as IPO. So, this involves a structured and regulated process. So, here's a step by step overview. So, the process involved in executing the IPOs are the first step is decision. So whenever the company wants to go public, then company decides to raise capital by offering shares to the public. So next step could be key considerations include financial health of the company, the current, present, and the domestic and international market conditions, and readiness to meet regulatory requirements. And the next step could be selection of underwriters. Investment banks or financial institutions are hired as underwriters. So these guys help with valuation of the company, how the IPO needs to be launched, the structure, the body of the IPO will be uh, will be performed by underwriters, and also marketing the IPO. How the IPO needs to be monitored and marketed during the process of launching the IPO. So the next step could be regulatory filings or due diligence. Here, the major step the company does is while launching an IPO is the company files a DRHP, which means draft red herring prospectus with the regulatory body. In India, the regulatory body is SEBI, and in US, the regulatory body is SEC. The DRHP contains details like the business overview, the financial performance, which are quarterly and annually performance, financial performance, and the results of the company. Basically, this includes the financial health of the company and the risks involved while launching the IPO and the purpose of the IPO. On what basis, on what purpose the IPO is being launched. And coming to the next step, that could be valuation and pricing. Pricing the IPO during this step, the company along with the underwriters decides on the two things. One is fixed price offering, where shares are issued at a set price. The second thing is book building process. This process involves a price band is provided and investors bid within this range. For example, uh, a price band between 100 to 150 is being allotted to public, then investors will bid within this range. For example, if they bid for 120, uh, this process is known as book building process, and then the final price is determined based on the demand. So this is during the valuation and pricing. And then next, marketing the IPO. Generally, during this process, it is known as road shows. The company conduct road shows to attract institutional and retail investors. We'll be going through who are institutional and retail investors in the next slides. During the process of marketing the IPO, advertisements and presentations are used to explain the company's growth potential. And then next step could be allocation and pricing of shares, which we already covered in the pricing the IPO. And then next step could be IPO subscription or IPO day. So during this step, investors apply for shares during the subscription period. The category of investors could be institutional investors like mutual funds, retail investors, high net worth individuals, or HINs. Allocation or allotment of shares. These shares are allocated based on demand and the investor category. If the shares are not allotted, refunds are processed for the unallocated bids. IPO day, which is a listing on stock exchange. This company lists its shares on the stock exchange, that is NSE, BSE, or NYSE if it is USA. Shares start trading publicly and the IPO proceeds are received. So this is a brief steps of process of launching an IPO. So we'll take an example of how the dmart, the famous the famous grocery store, or the famous stop for one stop solution for all the grocery needs. The parent company for dmart is Avenue Supermarts Limited. So this company launched its IPO in March 2017. And if you can see the issue details, like the IPO issue details, the IPO issue started from March 8th, 2017 to March 10th, 2017. And the issue size is around 1870 crores. That's a whooping amount of almost 1900 crores. The price brand started from 295 to 299. As we discussed earlier, then the people will bid here from 295 to 299. Based on the demand of the IPO, the price will be fixed. So the face value is 10. Face value is part of issue price. So usually the issue price is the combination of face value plus premium, where premium includes all the factors like the growth of the company, the profitability of the company, and all those details. So minimum bid lot is the minimum count of shares where you can apply or bid for. So there is a minimum bid lot of 50 shares for DMart. If you can see the subscription details, the total subscription was oversubscribed by almost 105 times, 104.60 times. It is very huge. So who oversubscribed it? Like qualified institutional buyers who oversubscribed 144 times, NIS, and retail individual investors. So I'll be going to see who all these three are in the next slide. So if you can see, the qualified institutional buyers are the category of investors which are recognized by the financial regulators. So these are like the mutual fund companies, asset management companies, pension funds, venture capital funds, financial institutions, insurance companies, banks, etc. So these are a major chunk of the investors whenever an IPO is coming into the market. So the next step could be the non-institutional investors. So these are the category of investors who are not who are not the qualified institutional buyers, or who are not in basically is not an institution. These are personal investors who are HNIs, trusts, etc. And retail individual investors are general public who participate in the stock market with very smaller amounts when compared to the above both of them. If we come to the next step, so these are the listing details when the IPO came into the market, where it is listed in the NSE and BSE, what is the listing price on the listing day, and while during the time of IPO, what are the financial highlights of the DMart. So you can see the total revenue, the total PAT, the profit after tax, the total assets, why the IPO is being raised. We can see there are total major three reasons of the DMart. One is to repayment or prepayment of the loans. The second is to construction and purchase of new stores, and the third is the general corporate purposes. So like